This podcast is sponsored by the Fireman Moving Company. The Fireman Moving Company is the official moving company of WKU Athletics. Not only can they be trusted to move all the coaches in and out of Western, but they can move you anywhere nationwide. The Fireman Moving Company is owned and operated by firemen and is founded by WKU alumni. If you are looking to move sometime soon, give them a call at 270 791 1755 and get yourself a free quote.
Welcome to Topper Talk, your number one Western Kentucky athletics podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Moffitt, and I'm joined by co-host Tyler Bailey. Hilltopper Nation, whether it's happening on the hill or on the road, grab those red towels, stand up and cheer, because it's up next on Topper Talk.
All right, welcome back, and thank you for downloading and listening to another episode of the Topper Talk podcast. We are your number one source for WKU sports news and information, and we are a proud member of the College Huddle podcast community. Make sure you're following us on all of our social media platforms. I especially would suggest our Twitter or X feed. It is our main source of where you're going to get the most frequent updates of all the news and information as it's happening throughout the day. And then also slide on over to our YouTube channel. Make sure you're subscribed over there. You get a notification every time we drop a new episode, which is at least once a week, sometimes during football, 2 times a week, like we are now. I've got Tyler here with me, man. We're ready to dive into another game preview. You about ready?
Yeah, man, let's get into it.
But before we get into some North Alabama information, we have to get caught up with our Red Towel wrap up, which catches us up with all the news and information since we last recorded. So, Tyler, hit us with that Red Towel wrap up.
All right, so starting off, pro tops that made the 50-man 3 final roster. George Fant, he's with the Commanders. Jordan Meredith, he's with the Raiders. Upton Stout made it with the 49ers. Devin Key with the Broncos. Tyler Higbee, he stays with the Rams. D'Angelo Malone's with the Falcons. And Mitchell Tinsley is with the Bengals.
Yeah, good amount of pro toppers made the final 53-man rosters out of the, I think it was 15 or 16 that we had that were in camp. The roster cut down date was August 26th by 4 p.m., so Tuesday. A lot of guys got released and waived. We'll talk about some of those in just a minute, but I expect that a lot of those guys are going to catch on either at another team or they're going to catch on with the practice squad of the team that they're in camp with. But definitely big congratulations to all the guys that made that 53-man opening day roster.
And here's the pro tops that made the practice squads. Lucky Jackson and Khalif Halasi, they're with the Vikings. And Bailey Zappi and Malachi Corley are with the Browns.
Yeah, pretty neat to see those guys paired up. Of course, Lucky and Halasi, they were with the Vikings all through camp. So they've been, on the same team for a while. Will still be on practice squad. Bailey was with the Chiefs through camp and got released on Tuesday, at the deadline. And Malachi was with the Jets as he was last year and got released at the deadline. But both of them decided to go to the Browns. So who knows, 2021 all over again. Anybody with the Browns? That would be pretty neat if it happened.
Moving on in other WKU news, the baseball team coach Riordan revealed home series against BYU, Indiana, Indiana State, and SEMO.
Yeah, he did a pretty neat little one-on-one interview that was posted earlier today. I think we shared it on Twitter, but he did an interview with the tennis coach, Greg Davis, which was kind of odd that the tennis coach was interviewing the baseball coach, but it was still pretty neat because they dove into just a lot of fun stuff to hear about, learn about, talk about. And at the very end, Coach Rarden did reveal some of the home series that we have lined up for the fall. So, all those are pretty good teams that have been to the NCAA tournament recently. So, I like to see that the schedule looks like it's going to be a little tougher this coming season.
WKU men's golf schedule that has been released.
Yeah, I don't have it to put up on the screen, but it's the pretty typical schedule that they have every fall. Just looking forward to keeping up with them and hopefully watching them win some tournaments.
And WKU soccer's Abby Widerman was named Conference USA Player of the Week.
Yeah, that tends to happen when you win in some ball games. So big congratulations to Abby and the women's soccer team for winning some games this past week, and then she gets that Player of the Week nod. So definitely earned, and congratulations.
And if you thought we was done with Player of the Week awards, you are mistaken. Jalen Lewis, Defensive Player of the Week. Cole Maynard, Special Teams Player of the Week, Lawrence Seymour, Offensive Line Player of the Week, Marvis Parrish, he is the Freshman of the Week, Maverick McIver, Offensive Player of the Week, and Maverick McIver also named the Shrine Bowl Monday morning QB.
Yeah, pretty much a clean sweep of the Conference USA Player of the Week awards on Monday for the football side of things. A little easier to do when there was only one Conference USA game going in week 0, and we pretty much dominated that game against Sam Houston. So all these guys definitely showed out and had great games and deserved all that recognition. So big congrats to all of them.
Oh, and if you thought we were done with of the week categories, Rick Bowie was named the Our Coaching Network Offensive Coordinator of the Week.
Yeah, but wait, there's more. With how well the offense performed, game number 1 with Coach Bowie and Maverick, he definitely deserved that recognition because, I mean, they were just clicking. And it's crazy because we talked about it in the recap. We left points off the board. We could have put a 50 piece on them. But definitely big congratulations to him. Don't know if he'll continue to win that award, weekly as the season's going on, but I am expecting high things from his offense the rest of the season.
And that concludes the Red Tower wrap up for this episode. Moff, back to you.
Yeah, good stuff. A lot of players of the week. Always love to hear that as our teams are playing and winning and athletes getting recognized. But now we have another football game to dive into, and that is our week 1, game 2 preview of our game this coming Saturday against North Alabama. The game is on Saturday, August 30th. It is at Houchin Smith Stadium. The kickoff time is 6 p.m. The game will be on ESPN Plus. The game is a whiteout. WKU is wearing all white uniforms and a white helmet. Hopefully, they're not going to pull an EKU like they did last year and ruin our whiteout. I think it's a little late for a last minute audible on that. But if you're going to the game, put the red shirt aside for one game and put on a white shirt. Blend in with hopefully the crowd getting the memo and wearing white. Of course, WKU enters this game at 1-0 overall, while North Alabama is 0-0. They have not played a game. WKU, of course, is led by 7th-year head coach Tyson Helton. North Alabama is led by 3rd-year head coach Brent Dearmon. And that name should sound familiar to some of the listeners, just Conference USA fans in general, as he was the offensive coordinator and quarterback coach at MTSU in 2021. And then he moved on to FAU, where he was in the same role in 2022. He has an overall career coaching record of 6 wins and 17 losses in his 2 seasons as head coach. Last year, North Alabama finished the season 3-9 overall. But I did find it interesting. They had an opponent on their schedule that we would recognize, and that would be Abilene Christian. They played Mr. McIver and Bowie last season when they were still at Abilene. And North Alabama was able to come out with a victory, 47-34. So, maybe Bowie and McIver have a little of a revenge factor. Maybe there's some familiarity there with some of the pieces that they'll have returning. Now, this is the first all-time meeting between the programs. There is no betting spread on the game that I could find. I would predict that if there was one, it would be in the high 20s, mid to high 20s, 25, 28-ish. I'd expect it to be a fairly widespread for FCS. But the ESPN matchup predictor gives WKU a 92.9% chance of victory. So, Tyler, how are you feeling about this matchup before we jump into some players to know?
I'm feeling really well about it. If you look back, University of North Alabama since 2020, they have not won more than 4 games. Actually, they I don't think they've won 4 games in a season. They always go like 3-9, 3-8, or something like that. So, and yes, their last year when they beat Abilene Christian, beat Bowie and McIver, but I don't think Bowie had this many weapons in his arsenal. You watched what our offense did week 0. I feel like University of North Alabama is going to have a hard time stopping it, and then our defense, if they continue what they did, I feel like we're going to be able to shut them down. So I feel pretty good about this matchup.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And I think once we get into keys to victory and score prediction, I think we'll both be in the same train of thought of just how convincing this victory should be on paper, of course. As we're running over the teams, looking at the players to need to know for North Alabama. We'll start on the offensive side of the ball. The first player is running back Javion Allen. He is number 6 on the roster. He's a 5'9", 200-pound redshirt senior. He's a first-team All-Conference player via the Phil Steele FCS Preview magazine. Last season, he had 135 carries for 545 yards with 5 touchdowns. He also had 161 receiving yards and an additional touchdown there. The second player to know is offensive lineman Ryan Walker. He is number 51, 6'3", 285 pounds. He's a redshirt sophomore. He's also a second team all conference player via Phil Steele. Last season, he started 12 games at right guard and he only allowed 2 sacks on 461 passing snaps. And then the next player to know is wide receiver Tanakh Scott. He is number 2 on the roster. He is a 6'5", 215-pound redshirt senior. He is a third team all conference player via Phil Steele. Last season, he had 26 catches for 407 yards and 3 touchdowns. And then lastly, kick returner Justin Peggs. He is a second team kick returner and a third team all purpose player. And he had a 100-yard kick return last year against Bowling Green of Ohio. So, a few offensive weapons there, Tyler. I know you've been, searching over their roster. Just anything else we need to know about these guys or anybody else that jumps out at you?
Well, a name that fans of WKU should be familiar with is LT Sanders. He's also in the running back room down there. But they have 2 quarterbacks. We don't know who they're going to start, or at least I don't know who they're going to start. One of them is Destin Wade. He's a transfer from Colorado, and he's pretty good. Then there's Ari Patu. He's our quarterback that kind of started last year but got injured. Ari Patu is 6'4", 220. He transferred in from Stanford. Destin Wade, he transferred in from University of Colorado. Their offensive line, they got guys from Troy, K-State, Indiana University, by TCU. And that's one thing that I've noticed looking over the schedule is they got some P4 talent that just transferred down there. But I don't feel like it's going to really matter. Wide receiver wise, let me get down here to him. All tight end. Kristen Burkhalter. He came from UCLA and Georgia Tech. He's 6'5", 250 pounds. He's a redshirt junior. There was one guy, this right here, Amari Rogers. Now he's a redshirt sophomore, but the boy is 6'5", 280 pounds. Hopefully he's just a blocking tight end, and that's all he does. Because if he got hands, that's going to be a monster to bring down. But I feel like our defense should be able to handle him pretty good. Like I said, I wish I knew who was starting QB because Destin or Wade, he went to Kentucky and then he went to what was that other school he went to?
Colorado.
Oh yeah, yeah, and I think they had somebody spend some time at Murray Murray. I mean, this place is full of transfers. So I think we'll be able to handle them though. But I have full faith in our defense.
Yeah, the LT Sanders Bowl. We're going to see a familiar face across the sideline. And if you listen to Coach Helton's presser earlier in the week, he did mention, just how good a player and how good a person that LT was, and he can't wait to hug his neck. He said, hopefully it's after a nice little loss. When I was looking over their offense, if I recall correctly, they averaged about 147 yards rushing per game last year. And I want to say it was a hair, just slightly over 200 yards passing per game. So it seems like it's a pretty balanced attack on what they're going to give you. Like you said, we don't know who's going to be the starting quarterback. They've got a guy returning that played in a few games last year and had an injury. And then the transfer, Destin Wade that you mentioned as well from Colorado. So not really sure who that starter is going to be, but I feel like it's still going to be the same type of balanced, slightly more passing yards than rushing, or just whatever the defense is giving them. They might have to ride the hot hand, kind of like Sam Houston did. If they have a mobile quarterback, I don't know. We'll see. But looking at the guys we need to know on defense, first off is a defensive lineman, Caleb Brown. He's number 99. He's 6 foot, 280 pounds. He's a senior. He was a third team all conference selection via Field Steel. Last season, he had 39 tackles and 8 tackles for loss. And then the next player to know is defensive back Jermaine Ray Jr. He's number 3. He's a 6 foot, 190 pound senior. He also was a third team all conference player. Last season, he had 26 tackles and 5 passes broken up. And then lastly, one of their special teamers was also on the all conference team, and that is their punter, Adam Watford. He was a second team all conference member. He had 103 total punts last season with an average of 41.6, but a long kick of 63 yards. So pretty good leg at times. The average, isn't blowing you away. But Tyler, what about these guys on defense? Anything stand out to you or anybody else on the roster?
Uh, no, not really on the defense guys that you mentioned, but I would like to mention defensive end. Number 0, his name is BJ Diakite. He's 6'4", 250 pounds. He transferred in there from Vanderbilt, where he played 3 years. He played in 27 games with 36 tackles, 15 solos, recorded 5 tackles for loss and 2 sacks. Also defended 2 passes. I mean, that was his. I mean, that he spent 3 years there. He's a senior now. But really, I mean, that's all I could really find. I do know, they do have some of the players you mentioned them on the field still, all conference team. So I wouldn't look lightly upon them, but I feel like our offense could have a heyday on this team.
Yeah, I'm just I know they're leaning a lot on transfers, and I feel like we just got done, with a game in Sam Houston that literally was a whole new team on defense of transfers. No returning starters if I recall correctly. And just didn't know what they were going to get, and kind of just I don't want to say got caught with their pants down, but got caught against a really good offense in Western Kentucky, and just Matt Henry just blowing by them, Katie Hutchinson, Musa Berry, just several guys that have really good games. And I think what it could boil down to is can their nickel or dime cornerback safety, can they cover our third or fourth wide receiver? Um, Probably not. Or Matthew Henry is going to get behind them. I mean, there's just like you said earlier, too many weapons on our offense. But we'll talk about that in just a moment, because next we've got to talk about our keys to victory for the North Alabama game. So Tyler, what have you got for your first key to victory versus North Alabama? Muted.
Dang it. KISS, keep it simple, stupid. Sometimes you can actually, if you overthink things or you try to reinvent the wheel, most times just going to end up hurting yourself. So just go, go out there, keep it simple. I mean, we know what we got to do to win. Don't try to do anything too big. Just run our plays.
Yeah, I like that. Kind of keep it vanilla, because you got a big game against Toledo coming up next. So you don't want to show your entire hand. I like that one. Keep it simple. I'm going to go with punch them in the mouth early. And in these type of games, and we've seen FCS opponents in the past, go back to the Mike Sanford era. We've seen FCS opponents, hang around, and the later in the game it gets, and they're hanging around, they start getting that confidence, and then those upsets are looming, and then something crazy happens and you find yourself losing to an FCS opponent. We don't want to be there. We don't want that to happen. We want to eliminate that possibility after the first 2 or 3 drives of the game. We just need to get the ball first, go down, score, get it back, go down and score, and just impose our will, and just completely deflate their sideline, and just I don't want to say run up the score, but leave no doubt early and often that we are the better team. So that's my first key to victory. Tyler, what's your second key to victory?
Not that there's an echo in the room or anything, but don't let them hang around, because you're right. We let some FCS teams hang around, or you watch other teams that should win against a smaller school, and they end up getting upset, getting beat, and nobody wants that. So, put your foot on the neck and do not let them even keep it nowhere near close.
Yeah, my second key to victory is going to be one that I think played a large part in the win against Sam Houston, and that's winning on third down. When we were 11 out of 19 on third down and Sam Houston was 2 out of 14, I believe it was. I mean, that's just dominant. That's getting them off the field. They were consistently in third and medium, third and long, and not able to convert. We need to do the exact same thing. It goes right along with, not let them hang around. If you're letting them extend drives and stay on the field and keeping Maverick and company on the sideline, we can't score with those boys on the sideline. So we have to get them off the field on third down. And we obviously have to continue to convert on our third downs when we have the ball, drive down and get as many points as possible. Tyler, what is your third key to victory versus North Alabama?
Well, I originally, I put down contain their big plays. I don't think they can match us body to body or try to outmuscle us. I feel like we're just going to be too big. So, they're going to try to play smarter. They're going to try to run some trick plays because they got to do something. Um, and we seen last week where Hunter Watson didn't really do nothing special. He just ran right up the middle, and then the running back for Sam Houston got two really big chunk plays on us. So I think if we're able to contain that and keep our be on the lookout for them trick plays, because I was reading on one of the bios and they scored on a trick pass to the quarterback against Michigan last year. So just be on the lookout for them because I feel like they're going to have to reach into their bag of tricks to try to even come out with a win against us.
I think my third key to victory is going to be similar to your first one. Keep it simple. I think this is a game where we can impose our run game on them a little bit more than we typically would. I think we're going to feature our passing offense for most of the season. But mentioned earlier, we have the Toledo game, which is our quote unquote, not counting LSU, our biggest non-conference game. It's another G5 opponent that's ranked very highly. That could be also in the playoff consideration with us, depending on who wins and how the rest of the season goes. We don't want to tip our hand too much to them, and they know we want to throw the ball. We don't want to show them every wrinkle we have in the playbook. So I think this would be a really good game to impose our running game and just let our offensive line go out there and be grinders, open up some holes, and let Marvis Parrish or Lavelle or George or whoever is getting the rock, just let them go out there and get some hard yards and, run the clock. Game will go quicker if you're running the ball instead of having an extended game. So I think impose your will with the running game. I think that would be nice to see. Now, Tyler, who have you got for your MVT versus North Alabama?
I think we'll ride with Maverick on this week. I would really like to put down a running back, and I think later in this season I will. But I feel like in this game, Maverick is fitting.
Yeah, I think I'm going to continue to ride Maverick as well until, Matthew Henry obviously will have a good game. I think several receivers and or running backs will have good games, but I think that all starts with Maverick. And we saw last game, it seemed like he was a little amped up, a little jittery, throwing some fastballs. I think this game we see a little bit more calm and present Maverick, one that's went to the film room all this week, combed over those mistakes, combed over those misses, gotten coached up by Helton and Bowie, and just going to go out and have an even bigger game than what he did against Sam Houston. And I think that's saying a lot because he had a pretty dang good week last week. Now, Tyler, time to jump into a score prediction for North Alabama. Who you got winning and what's the score?
I got WKU winning, no surprise there. To a tune of 56-3. I feel like their field goal comes in garbage time. Because if you're up 56, you take first string out, second string out, you get third string in on that one. And I think that's when they may get close enough to kick a field goal. Please don't let that come back and bite me in the ass.
That's a big win. 56-3 is a lot of points to not a lot. I'm not gonna lie, I'm feeling a little pressure on this score prediction because last week I hit it right on the head, and had to pull the Mofstradamus card out with that 41-24. We recorded on Monday or Tuesday last week, so pretty early prediction in the week. It obviously came true by the luck of just how the ball bounced. We had 41 with 10 minutes to go, and we just didn't score again. So a little pressure. If I get this one right on the head, I guess I'm gonna have to go buy a lottery ticket. So I went with and also a pretty high score, but I gave North Alabama a little bit more points. I went with WKU 52, North Alabama 10. Pretty big, convincing victory. Hopefully, the type of victory where we get some of those starters out in the middle to late second half. Get Maverick out of there if need be. Let some of those depth pieces or those red shirt guys get in and get some reps under the lights before we have the rest of the season upon us. I don't want to call this a tune-up game. I don't want to, overlook this opponent or disrespect them. We don't really know a ton about them just because of how many transfers, etc., that they have. But I think we both foresee a pretty convincing victory, no matter how this plays out. So, looking forward to it. Obviously, we're back into football mode. It's nice to be celebrating a Week 0 victory against Sam Houston, which was very convincing. It was nice to shut all the Sam Houston burners and trolls up. But now we look forward. And after this game, it starts to get real fun with Toledo, Nevada, and then into conference play. So, this should be a fun game. Should be a lot of fireworks, should be a lot of points the way we both see it. Didn't talk about the weather in the lead up to the game with the game information, but looking like it's going to be nice weather for this game. Not seeing any rain, a little bit cooler, not hot like it was again this past weekend. 84 degrees, I think it was. A little bit cooler than that, I think, on the weather forecast. So come on out to the Houch, enjoy the game, wear your white, cheer on the Tops because we have got another big victory, and we're going to start this season 2-0 on our way to a really special season. Tyler, hit us with your final words and take us on out of here.
Yeah, I mean, if we could hang up a 70 piece like we did against FIU a few years ago, and they never crossed the 45-yard line, their 45-yard line, I would absolutely love that. But yes, everybody come out to the whiteout. It should be a pretty nice day, with all this fall type wet feel weather we got. Maybe bring a light jacket, I guess, Saturday night because at nighttime it's been getting a little chilly. I've been wearing a hoodie to work in the morning. I'm not a big fan of it, but I just like the hot weather. But yeah, come on out, tailgate, get ready for a game, get ready to watch your Hilltoppers play, and it should be a pretty good win for the Tops. So with that, I will say, Moff, who has better than us?
Nobody, buddy. You know it.
Go Tops, y'all.
Go Tops. Later, guys.
See you.